Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z42, and today we are going to take a look at the Roll20 reserve for the month of June 2022. This is Dungeons and Lairs number 23, Ethereal Plane by DMDave. Prepare your players for the Ethereal Plane with 7 short adventures from DMDave. Contains new creatures and player options, and is suitable for characters level 1 through 14 in any D&D 5e campaign. So the first thing I like to do when I do these sorts of look-ats and reviews, whatever you want to call them, I like to take a look at the creator's page and see what else they have to offer. So here we have DMDave. DMDave is a writer and influencer who has written over 3 million words worth of 5th edition content, most of which is available for free download on dmdave.com, as well as Patreon, where he has over 6,000 monthly patrons. And, well, let's go ahead and take a look. Over here, we have some featured products like the Black Dragon Lair, or Legends of Omeria, Winds of Apul, Shrine of the Emperor Bones, the Vault of Terror. So DMDave, from what I can tell, likes to create these short adventures, and they are level scaling in a way. Like he'll have some stuff for level 3, then level 5, and on up and on up. So you can play this with some characters that are lower level, or you can play this with characters that are higher level, which is pretty cool. It's more bang for your buck in a way, and there's lots of these little adventures, like so far 44, and there's some mega bundles that you can get as well, and just some campaigns as well. It looks like some actual full-length campaigns, so that's actually really cool. I'm really glad that, you know, there's somebody on Roll20 that's making these adventures, because I think that's what we need. We need more short adventures, especially to be featured on Roll20, because on the at least the reserve, because it maps and stuff are really cool and all, and tokens are also pretty cool, but actually having an adventure to use with said maps and tokens, that's really where I think they're going to draw in a lot of people. So let's take a look at the product itself. So here we have our beginning page, the Ethereal Plane. Enter a realm of endless possibilities. Really like that cover. But, of course, there are some different maps that are available here. And remember, this is an adventure that can take players from level 1 through 14, or has adventures from 1 through 14. And there's a lot of different notes here to read through. For the very beginning, you have your creature tokens, which I believe is all original artwork. And then you have some of the handouts. And the thing about the handouts, they're just the pictures. There's actually no description. And that is actually it. So let's take a look at what the Ethereal Plane is. The Ethereal Plane is a misty fog-bound dimension that is sometimes described as a great ocean. Kind of like the astral plane, I guess. Its shores, the border ethereal, overlap the material plane and the inner plane, so that every location on those planes has a corresponding location on the ethereal plane. Certain creatures can see into the border ethereal, and the see invisibility and true seeing spells grant that ability. Some magical effects also extend from the material plane into the border ethereal, particularly effects that use force energy such as Force Cage and Wall of Force. The depths of the plane, the deep ethereal, are a region of swirling mists and colorful fogs. And we have a nice little table of contents. And of course, if you click on said table of contents, it'll bring that page up, like the Ethereal Plane rules. And it's got the how to enter the Ethereal Plane and some mishaps that can happen. What's time like when you get into the Ethereal Plane, water or air and breathing and stuff like that. Food and drink, any senses, how movement works. It's a pretty descriptive set of rules, which is really cool. It's setting up a lot of the adventures and how travel works, and, you know, spells and magic. It's very detailed, and I do appreciate that. There's also an encounters table, so for some of the different locations, or you might be asked to roll on one of these encounters. So for example, we have random encounters in the border ethereal, roll a d20 and consult the chart, or random encounters in the deep ethereal, and then you have some descriptions of some of the monsters. An ether cyclone, oh, That sounds actually pretty rad. Ether gap. So some hazards to deal with when you actually go into the ethereal plane, which is really cool. I do like hazards and stuff. So nice, very descriptive encounters table, adventures in the ethereal plane. So the following adventures occur in and around the ethereal plane. Before running these adventures, be sure to review the ethereal plane rules section earlier in this article so you don't look like a scrub in front of all your players. So here we have 7 different adventures from level 1 all the way through level 14, and it's actually a recommended level for each of the adventures, which is nice. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 11th, and then 14. Although I suspect you could probably just run this as a campaign, maybe add in some extra stuff to get your players up to those levels. If you're doing milestones, it should be pretty easy. Something that I really do like about this is that there are player's guides for certain rules. So like you have the Ethereal Plane Basics, which is just a brief description of what we as a GM would have already read. But this is something that you can show to your players and say, here's how the Ethereal Plane works. Maybe those characters know it, or maybe that's something that they're going to learn, and then they can also learn about the adherence. There are some new stuff included within this adventure. For example, new sources origin, ethereality. The wizard has an arcane tradition called Ethereal Hunter. There's some new feats and new spells. I believe they all deal with the ethereal in some way. And since you're going to be traveling around the ethereal plane like it's some astral sea, you do have access to an ethereal skiff, which is pretty cool. And there's maps for the ethereal skiff and a layout, which is also really cool. So it's kind of like they were getting ready for Spelljammer and stuff like that before Spelljammer was really announced officially, which is really cool. I mean, this could definitely fill that itch until the Spelljammer stuff comes out later this year. For now, I think we're going to take a look at the 7 adventures. I'm not going to go through it in exhaustive details, but at least give a brief introduction to the adventures themselves. So first off is Parasites for level 1. The characters must find the source and cure for a new ethereal-born virus. Characters who successfully complete the adventure should earn enough experience to advance to level 2. So a few weeks ago, a strange illness spread across the city of Desneoris, referred to as the Wasting. The disease ate away at the intelligence of those who contracted it, causing them to become feeble-minded. Members of the local Supernatural Investigations Guild, Secrets of the Righteous, determined that everyone who contracted the disease was an employee or scholar of the city library, the Archivist's Sanctum. And then, of course, you have a rough outline of the adventure where the players go to get certain information and the characters that they meet. There's also one of the maps, the Archivist's Sanctum. Let's take a quick look at that. This map specifically has different sides, so we can choose a side. So this is the standard side that you see here. I believe that's supposed to be when you're going into the ethereal, probably. And then another side, and these are individual maps here, by the way. So there's 4 individual maps for, I believe, the different levels of this sanctum. Pretty interesting, I will admit that. So let's go back to the regular. So a nice little short adventure for level 1 players. Let's take a look at Adventure 2, All Through the Nether. An ice mephit named Lairs stole a valuable artifact which it hopes to hand over to its superiors on a demi-plane called the Nether. The characters must stop Larry before he reaches the Nether. Characters who successfully complete the adventure should earn enough experience to advance to level 3. So while the characters are in the city of Desneoris, possibly at the library they just saved from parasites, June, one of the Archivist's Sanctum scholars, approaches them, a clear look of frustration on her face. She just heard that a magical black dagger, thought to be lost in the annals of history, resurfaced at a haunted keep a few leagues from the city. Unfortunately, an ice mephit, an evil para-elemental creature, grabbed the dagger and took it back to the ethereal plane. So it looks like they do kind of link these adventures in a way to make it easy to go back to back for these adventures, which is really good. I like that. So in this one, they are going after a little ice mephit in some haunted location, and I'm wondering if there is a map for that. Probably is. but I didn't see a link to it when I skimmed through the adventures. So let's go to adventure number 3, Finding Doral. The librarians at the Archivist's Sanctum ask the characters to find out what happened to the head librarian, Doral. Characters who successfully complete should, advance to level 4, yada, yada, yada. So it does look like you're going to have to do some extra side content to get them to level 5, which is the next adventure, if I'm not mistaken. So the Archivist Sanctum's head librarian Doral took a sabbatical a few weeks ago, supposedly to explore the Walling Miota forest. Recently, the other librarians learned that Doral never reached the Walling Miota. Other clues point towards the idea that something bad happened to Doral, namely the invasion of cerebral parasites in the library. So that's kind of like a link from Adventure 1. The scholars at the Archivist Sanctum ask the characters to investigate Doral's disappearance. So at least they're giving you a way to initiate the quest, which I'm really glad for. Doesn't look like there was a map linked to this one as well, actually. So I'm wondering if you're supposed to use some of these ethereal maps for some of the, or probably for that adventure number 3. Oh, there's Lairs, so that one was for adventure number 2. Let's see, Salt Lord. Yeah, this is the adventure number 3, Finding Doral. So there's your Salt Lord. All right, let's go to the Daburm. The Archivist Sanctum's chief librarian asks the characters to investigate a haunting in town. So this one takes them to level 6. The people of Desneoris, northwestern ward, know better to go near Hopper House. Supposedly, the old rundown building is filled with ghosts. Recently, a couple of children entered the house testing the myths. One of the children never returned because of the house's connection with the Ethereal Plane. Desneoris' mayor, Fazil Barra, seeks the city's library's chief librarian to investigate. So it looks like we're doing an investigation of a house. Here's Hopper's house. Whoa, that is some big creatures. So we have the real side and then we have the ethereal side. What about adventure number 5, Plague of Xil? Doral detects signs that dangerous creatures from the deep ethereal might try to stage an incursion on Omeria. He asks the characters to learn what they can about the creature before it's too late. Okay, this one will take him to level 9. Let's see. Doesn't look like there's anything on this map about the deep ethereal battle. Oh, we've got ourselves a skiff. Could this be? Oh, there's Xil right there, Plague of Xil. So it looks like this map, you're going to be utilizing some skiffs and maybe ship-to-ship battle, getting onto this skiff and dealing with the enemies. Very interesting. Revenge of the Xil, or maybe this is the one that uses the skiffs. The Archivist's Sanctum Library comes under attack from Xil, seeking retribution for the character's intrusion on their demiplane. So this one takes him to level 12. As a follow-up to adventure number 6, Xil from Dusun learned the character's point of entry into the Ethereal Plane. An ethereal raider full of Xil enters the border ethereal over the Archivist's Sanctum Library. They intend to destroy Doral's magic circle as well as the character's ethereal skiff. So this is the one that uses this map. The empty map before in the Crystal Cave makes use of adventure number 5, which doesn't have any enemies, so I'm wondering why there's a map here for that. Alright, and the last adventure, the Ebon Maw. The characters travel to an unusual demiplane within the deep ethereal to rid it of its dangerous inhabitants. So this one takes them to level 15. If the characters played through adventure number 6, it's possible that the Xil command Zok Al ask the characters to remove the threat of the worm of the deep from the deep ethereal. Zok Al promised the characters that if they destroyed the worm of the deep, she and her people would leave Omeria alone. So very interesting. I like how 3 of the adventures kind of are linked together. It seems like everything before that was just a setup for those 3 adventures. So the rigid plane. There's some ropers hiding there. At least I believe that's on the ethereal side. A worm layer. I believe that's the worm that you have to get rid of. Worm of the Deep. Wow, that is massive. And all of these maps, by the way, are dynamically lit. So that's why you see some shadows going on over there. And the last map, is a token library. So these are all of the different tokens that you can use for any of these adventures, from the Berserker all the way to the Worm of the Deep, and I believe they all have their stats. There we go, just like so. I don't believe I linked this to DMDave 5e, so I don't think it's going to have, yeah, it's not going to have any of their character sheets on there. So whoops, my bad. So that is Dungeons and Lairs 23 Ethereal Plane in a nutshell. I really do like that you have options for running any of these adventures. Like if I have a low level group, I could run adventure number 1 or number 2. If I have a higher level group, then I can maybe finagle a way to bring adventure number 6 or 7 into the mix. Although it really seems like 5, 6, and 7 are linked together, and 1, 2, 3, and 4 are kind of like more of an introduction to the different aspects of the ethereal plane that lead into 5, 6, and 7, which is nice. So feel free to leave a comment down below, give this video a huge thumbs up to support this series, and subscribe if you would like to see more. I will see you guys in the next video.